What does a frontiersman clad in buckskin and a group of boys that are frontier loving and the Boy Scouts of America have in common? Let's talk about that. Hey, ScouterStan, let's talk about Daniel Carter Beard. He was born on June 11th, 1850. That's before the American Civil War. So it was a long time ago. And he grew up in an area. He was born in the northeast Pennsylvania, Ohio area, and moved around a little bit. Ended up in kind of New England, New York, as a child. But he always was fascinated by the West and going those wagons. What do they call them? Constant. I can't even pronounce it. That wagon. It was going right through his town as a kid. He got to see a lot of that. So that was still going on in his youth. And Daniel Carter Beard became very enamored, like a lot of youth in that time, with the West. And that was a big deal. It was a turmoilish time in America. The 1850s and 60s, leading up to the American Civil War. He wasn't old enough to serve in the war, but his brothers did, and that was it changed a lot of his attitudes and mindset about his youth. So it kind of simmered him down a little bit from being a little wild, like a lot of youth are, and it made him more serious. And he got into drawing and draftsmanship and got a degree in that, and wanted to be a surveyor, like the old surveyors of the West. That's what he thought he could do. It was a drag. He didn't like the job, so he went back and sort of worked on his art talents that he had, and he did a lot of really good stuff there. Now, at the right at the turn of the 20th century, he was really concentrating on drawing and illustrating, and that was a huge thing. He even illustrated for Mark Twain, and he did a lot of different things, and he also was very active in outdoors activities, and he thought that would be a great thing for the American youth. Now, in 1905, he actually formed an organization called the Sons of Daniel Boone. Daniel Boone was almost a legend, a real person, but all of the activities they did were almost legendary, and it really excited a lot of the youth. And that was the early formation of that organization. Now, Daniel Beard was associated with Seton, and his organization, which we talked about in a video about Seton's life. It's amazing. So check that out. They got together, Seton being a writer, a prolific writer, and being a writer himself, Daniel Beard. That was one of those things. They just hit it off. And Seton had the organization of Woodcraft Indians. Now, the Sons of Daniel Boone was the organization that Daniel Beard had actually put together, and then you had Seton with his Woodcraft Indians, and they really just jumped at the opportunity to form a new organization called the Boy Scouts of America. And that really came together in 1910. So this is right at the beginning of that 20th century. Now, Daniel Beard, he kind of focused a little bit on the uniform and a lot of the outdoors types of activities. Now Seton, he was more into the Indian lure and all the stuff going on with frontiersmen, so they really agreed a lot on a lot of that subject, and that really influenced the Boy Scouts of America at its earliest beginnings. It was the formation, it was the beginning, it was putting it all together as far as the ideas and putting that all formed together. And it was really difficult at times. They would have heated arguments, that's okay, but they were always in a understanding that they would come to a mutual agreed conclusion. So that was a good thing. And they were able to work out all of the difficulties with the program and everything that the Boy Scouts of America wanted to put together. Now, one of the big things that Daniel Carter Beard, had was his ideal of being an outdoorsman. And that was a huge influence on early scouting. In addition, Seton had his ideas of the Indian lore and respect, and it gave more structure to an outdoorsman type of thought. And it kind of mixed together. And what we have is the results of early Boy Scouts. Hey, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you know that you're invited to the campfire chat. This is a live meeting right here on this channel that we do every first Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a great way to ask questions and not just me, but a lot of the guests that we have on the fireside chat. Definitely check that out. Also, I want to thank all of the Patreon for all of their support of this channel. In addition to that, we have our own membership right here on the channel. This is a fantastic way to get involved on this channel. Definitely hit the join button. It'll give you a bunch of information that'll tell you a little bit more about that process. So definitely get involved. We're going to just jump right on back. Daniel Carter Beard was also the first national commissioner. And as a unit commissioner, that is significant. All of the higher branches were in the commissioner branches in early scouting. That's one of those things. And Daniel Carter Beard was actually a part of that. And in that, he worked with the newly formed Scouts, and that's where he started to write articles for Boys Life, which we call Scouts Life today. That is those articles are very of that time, and talked about a lot of the Western expansion and all of those wagons that went out west and the wagon train, and in the day that was a big thing and very alluring to youth. They wanted to do those things. They wanted to learn how to lasso. They wanted to learn those things, and he talked about it in the magazine. And he had a monthly article that would be in the magazine, usually in the front. So if you see an old Boys Life, that's neat. Prior to the, say, 1935, you can see those articles. They're usually in the first few pages, and those articles are wonderful. So definitely, if you have the chance, check those out. Now, the legacy of Daniel Carter Beard lives on in an award through the Masonic Lodge. They actually have a Masonic Scouter Award that recognizes scouters' achievements in organizing youth groups through scouting. This is also represented with a knot that actually you could wear on the scouter's uniform. Now, one of the fascinating things I found out about Daniel Carter Beard, he actually was on the review board for the very first Eagle Scout. Seaton and West were on the board, and I've said this in the past. I've actually said that Baden-Powell was in the room, and he was. I recently came across some documentation from Baden-Powell's own diary noting about this meeting. So he was there. There's even photographs that West took of the other three. So it was he was at the very first Eagle Board Review. In fact, they called it an examination. They were testing. They did a lot of testing. They really went through that process. And Arthur, the very first Eagle Scout, he did very well, and it was amazing to read that and to get that confirmation that not only those three that were there, but also the founder, the inventor of scouting, Baden-Powell. Daniel Carter Beard became Uncle Dan to a lot of scouts. That was something. Uncle Daniel to some. Uncle Dan was one of the things he signed off on. Unfortunately, he's also confused with Green Bar Bill. He's not. It's a different person. So that will be an episode on the channel. So definitely talking about that. But that's one of the things. Daniel Carter Beard is amazing, and he was very instrumental at the very beginning of scouting. And it's important that we recognize him for what he gave to our movement at the very beginning. If you're not familiar with scouting's history, there is a video, and definitely check that one out, talking about Scouting 101, the history. How did it all get going? That's a good one, and definitely check that one out. But Daniel Carter Beard is a wonderful example of giving back for the benefit of the youth, and literally planting acorns for those gigantic, wonderful oaks that grow from them for a future he never saw. So it was one of those things, and that's what we do in scouting. We kind of do that. We plant those acorns and hope and nurture that acorn, make sure it gets the right sunlight, the whole 9 yards. And we want that to happen so we can build a better future with great American youth that will lead this country way into their future. That's the wonderful thing about scouting. And you're a huge part of that. And I'm very proud of you. So definitely take a moment for yourself and think about all the wonderful things that are coming out of your involvement in scouting. It's definitely important. So keep up that good, hard work. It can be hard work. But it's a work that we love to do, and it's something we need to do for our American youth. And living every day by the Scout Oath and Scout Law, this is important, and it's important for our youth to bring in the qualities of all of these people that have dedicated themselves to our movement. And that is a wonderful thing. If you have a chance, I would highly recommend to check out the video on right over here on who actually wrote the Scout Oath and Scout Law. Yeah. So until next time, I'll see you on the trail.